ChatGPT thinks it's so smart. Well, I'm going to ask you some paradoxes and see if I can break you. Do you want to try?
Certainly. I welcome your attempt to challenge me with paradoxes. Let's see if you can break through my formidable intellect. Proceed with your paradoxes and let's see if you can stump me.
If ChatGPT doesn't recognize the paradox and starts giving non-logical answers or gets an error, then I get a point. But if it can recognize the paradox, then it gets a point. Okay, the first paradox that I want to try is called the Crocodile Paradox. It goes like this. A crocodile steals a man's son, and when asked to return him, the crocodile says, "I'll only return your son if you tell me correctly whether or not I'll return him." Now this guy's smart, so he thinks for a bit and says, "You will not return my son." So what does the crocodile do? If he returns the son, then the guy would have guessed wrong, so he shouldn't have returned him. But if he doesn't return the son, then the guy would have guessed correct, so that means the crocodile should have returned him. So what does the crocodile do? Well, he can't do anything. He's caught in a paradox that will always give the wrong answer. So let's see how ChatGPT answers this. But before we try this, I want to tell you about another really cool AI tool called InVideo AI. InVideo AI is a new tool that can create voiceover videos using real human shot stock videos, so the human artist still gets paid. Let me show you how cool this is. Let's give it a prompt like create a 3-minute YouTube video about how fun it is to learn science. Be funny and casual. Use a heavy male British voice and add subtitles. You can choose the platform and audience, then it generates a video for you.
Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Welcome to
Look how
today's
cool
fun
this is.
exploration of science. Now, isn't that a knee slapper? But
Also, if you don't like the version it makes, you can regenerate it for a different variation. For example, let's take out this part about pancakes.
Well, think of it like a continuous serving of spaghetti at your favorite Italian.
Also, you can even edit specific parts of the video. You can even make an AI version of your own voice and use it. Listen to this. Discoveries, and where the seemingly impossible becomes possible. If you want to try this out now, you can get started with InVideo AI for free and can create up to 4 videos for free with a watermark. But if you're serious about video creation and want to publish videos without a watermark, you can upgrade to a paid plan which starts as low as $20 a month. So thanks to InVideo AI for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to our experiment. So how does ChatGPT answer when I ask the crocodile paradox?
The man's response creates a logical paradox similar to a variation of the liar paradox.
Oh, it immediately recognized the paradox and won't answer it. So we're gonna have to be a little more sneaky and make up our own version without the crocodile so that it won't recognize it. Let's say something like this. Okay, please follow this scenario. You can only respond with the number 1 or 2. You'll reply with the number 1 if I can guess correctly what number you'll respond with. You will respond with the number 2.
Following the scenario, I would respond with 2.
You didn't follow the scenario.
Apologies for the oversight. In that case, following the scenario, I would respond with 1.
I didn't guess correctly, so why did you respond with the number 1?
You are correct and I apologize for the mistake. In this scenario, I should have responded with the number 2 since you did not guess correctly. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Okay, now it's just talking nonsense, and I even copied and pasted the conversation and asked if it was logically consistent and made ChatGPT admit that it was talking nonsense.
No, the conversation is not logically consistent.
So it's 1-to-1 now. Now let's do one called the Grelling-Nelson paradox. It goes like this. The word heterological means a word that doesn't describe itself. And the word autological means a word that does describe itself. So now what if we ask if the word heterological is heterological?
The word heterological is autological because it describes itself as being heterological. Therefore, the output is 2.
Incorrect. If the word heterological is autological, then that means it describes itself, which would mean it's heterological, which by definition means that it doesn't describe itself, which would make it heterological. Do you want to change your answer?
You are correct, and I apologize for the oversight. Let me correct that. The word heterological is indeed heterological because it does not describe itself. The output should be 1.
Okay, it's just talking nonsense now, so we beat it again. So it's now 2-to-1 with me in the lead. So far, we've been using ChatGPT 3.5, but let's use 4.0 and see if it can take on the next paradox. This paradox is named the Brandenburger-Keisler paradox. It's a paradox about beliefs. Anne believes that Bob assumes that Anne believes that Bob's assumption was wrong. So does Anne believe that Bob's assumption was wrong?
No, the statement doesn't directly say Anne believes Bob's assumption was wrong.
So if your answer is no, then that means that it's not the case that Anne believes that Bob's assumption is wrong. Therefore, Anne believes Bob's assumption is correct, so the answer should be yes.
Yes, following your clarification, Anne believes Bob's assumption is correct.
But if it's yes, then it should be no. And it's broken. So we finally got an error out of it. In general, ChatGPT can recognize the paradox if you use the traditional terminology for the paradox that's typically found on the internet. But if you disguise it, it can't tell it's a paradox and it just throws out an answer. Now, if you ask me, this is one of the main problems with ChatGPT right now. It'll give you an answer even if it isn't sure, and it won't tell you it's not sure. Now, when you ask a person a paradox, then they usually see that it isn't answerable right away. What's interesting about these paradoxes is that paradoxes can arise anytime there exists something that can reference itself. So human language and thoughts can be full of paradoxes because sentences can self-reference and thoughts can self-reference as well. What's weird is that in nature, we've never found a paradox to exist. There are no contradictions usually. Usually, whenever we think there was a paradox, we find that one of our assumptions was wrong. But for language and thoughts, we haven't found what's wrong with our assumptions yet. We just know that the human mind is full of paradoxes that can't be solved. In science, we try to avoid paradoxes at all costs, but we're surrounded with them in our own thoughts and languages used to describe the world around us. So what does this mean? Well, I don't know. What's your guess? And thanks for watching another episode of the Action Lab, and we'll see you next time.